Good morning and welcome to Teach Me Bees. I'm your host, Dave Westcott. I've got with me co-host Scott the Beekeeper, and I've also I've also got Stan and Elisa with the Honey Company. They are beekeepers from Utah, and they run the Honey Company. And interestingly enough, well, I won't share everything that I've got in front of me. But one of the cool things that you guys are working on is raising feral queens. Um, as we kind of get kicked off here, that is such an interesting thing. Can you share with us a little bit about raising the feral queens?
Sure. A little background on what we call our feral bee project. So I was down in southern Utah. This is the Four Corners area. So we're sharing a border with Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado. And
Okay.
we were on a horse ride down there outside of town. We're out in the middle of nowhere, far away from any other beekeepers, backyard or commercial beekeepers. And I noticed a honeybee on some flowers out there. And I didn't know exactly if there could have been colonies nearby, but I assumed it was a feral bee. I assumed they were wild, probably got loose from a swarm and have been out there on their own for a while. So the idea to take some mating nukes down to that location and put them out and let the virgin queens mate with the feral drones would be a good idea, because we could capture the genetics that way. If those bees have been out there living on their own for quite some time, they must be some tough bees. That's the
Right.
And so considering the problems that we've been having with the bee health and bee mortality rate, I thought this would be a good idea. This would be one way to improve the genetics, to recapture some of the genetics that we've lost in our commercial beekeeping practices, and put those genes and those character traits for survival on their own without help from the beekeeper back into our population. Mm-hmm. So that's what I did. Raised a bunch of queens, took them down there, turned them loose.
And how long ago did you do this?
This was, we started this project, I think it was 2007. So,
oh, wow.
Wow.
Okay. So you've been doing this 17, 18 years. This has been something you've been doing for a long time.
Right.
And how successful has this been?
We've had some improvement, obvious improvement in our bees. We, in addition to just taking survivor stock from our own bees that we had that were commercially available, we've also captured some feral colonies. We've done some cutouts down in Monument Valley.
Okay.
So we've also taken some queens, some feral queens, purebred feral queens from that area, rather than just take stock from our own survivor stock down there. So it's been successful. It's not as successful as I would like. The ultimate in this would be to have a bee that's capable of surviving all on its own without us having to put any medication for varroa mite or anything else in there. Mm-hmm. So I can't say that we've accomplished the goal completely to be medication free, but we have noticed a great improvement in brood patterns and in survivability. It's successful. Yes.
Wow.
It's fascinating.
So the Four Corner area, Arizona, Utah, New Mexico, Colorado, that area in the winter gets mighty cold, doesn't it?
The temperatures down in Blanding is closest to where we're at, are very similar to Wasatch Front. So even though it's further south and it's a higher elevation. Mm-hmm. So if you were to look at temperatures that are similar to the population areas in Utah, Salt Lake City, Provo, Orem, Utah County, that area, it's about the same temperatures there. So they'll get a little bit less precipitation down there, but the temperatures are about the same.
Yeah, which is unusual.
It's cold.
It's hot.
Yeah, yeah. So it's cold. Yeah, it'll get occasionally down in the single digits overnight.
Wow.
And yeah, so we got the seasons here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cold.
It's dry. how do the bees survive the cold? Because one of the things you hear is like, oh, if I was a backyard beekeeper and I let my beehive go for the winter, they would die of cold, they would die of starvation, they wouldn't survive over the winter. But it seems like these feral bees, they not only, one, are they reproducing, two, you found them, which is amazing, and then three, they're able to survive the cold. How are they doing that? Are they burrowing, nesting in the ground? Uh, what is
So
that?
can I answer first? So the first thing you want to keep in mind is that the top honey producing states in our country are North Dakota and Minnesota, which are much colder than we are here. So bees can winter in their hives just normally. Sometimes they die, but we wish they didn't do that. But they can overwinter. We just need to make sure that they have enough honey in the hive. When we're preparing for winter, we start in spring to prepare for winter. Probably you do too. And we want to have them produce surplus honey, and then we leave. In our area, like our rule of thumb is that we try to have, if we're wintering in 2 deep boxes, which is typical for us here, then we want those 2 deep boxes to be about 100 pounds in, late October. So if we pick up the hive, it's about 100 pounds. And if they have enough honey, then they can, consume the honey, and they detach their wings, they shiver and generate heat, and that in their cluster, and that, maintains the colony. You know that, but.
That's awesome. But it's great. It's always great to hear. And, for the audience, they might not know. Sometimes you've got kids listening to the show. In fact, I was just talking to some people that had some kids listening to the show, and they were saying how fascinating it was to learn that, the best thing that somebody can do for a beehive is plant flowers. That bees need flowers. And so I think sometimes just the little tips and the resharing is always amazing, because there's so many things that people know and then people don't know. And so I think that's pretty awesome. Scott, what do you think as a beekeeper?
So I was just going to add, sorry, go ahead, Scott.
Well, I was just a little curious on, so your feral bee project to this point, you said you haven't raised fully resistant bees, or, they still need some help. One, are you still going out and actually dropping off mating hives in the wild, or have you integrated enough DNA into your current hives that is kind of reproduced on its own? And then, what's maybe the latest on where your current hives are at, maybe in resistancy and strength and such? Just kind of curious on that.
Sure. So those that are really into the genetics of beekeeping and how that's going to play out from year to year as you get further down the generational line, you need to replenish that genetics. We need to come back to the source. And so as we take bees down there, I'm careful when I take a mating nuke down there not to take any drones with me from anywhere else. So we want to take all the drones out of the hive. And then the queens down there will only mate with the drones, the feral drones. And so we try to go down there every year. So, for example, we have purchased some bees from some other beekeepers that Russians, for example, those that are breeding purebred Russians in this country, they want to make sure that they've got queens that are purebred. And so we're trying to do the same thing. So we'll go back down there every year, get a new batch of queens. So we've always got something that's as close to that feral population as possible. So I could raise some away from that location if I had isolated mating yards, but I'm never sure. There's always other beekeepers around that have bought, their Italians or their Carniolans from out of California or Florida or something like that. And our queens mate with some of those drones. And so by going down there every year, then I keep that genetics pure.
Okay, gotcha. That's good.
That's pretty awesome. Oh, go ahead.
How many hives do you guys currently have on site?
So there's let's see, I went into this winter with about 60 colonies is all. And I'll be happy if we come out there with 50 or 40. So that's what we've got for now. But that fluctuates. we sell so many bees. We sell lots of nukes. And so,
Okay.
we'll go from a few hundred back down to, whenever people are stopped buying, that's what I have left.
Mhm.
So,
Interesting.
I noticed on, I was doing a little bit of research, and I noticed that you guys have some beekeeping online courses that you offer, right? Let's Go Beekeeping.
Yeah, so we offer 6 online courses, and they're really awesome. So the first one is free, and it's called My First Colony, and that one, so you can sign up for that free on our website and go through and learn about, just basically how to get started with your first colony. You'll learn like what the different kinds of hives and breeds of bees and what you need to get started, kind of a thing. And then the last course is actually queen rearing. So that gives a ton of details about our feral bee project. And,
Wow.
that's a more advanced topic, but it's for people who might want to try raising their own queens. It's using the Doolittle method. And it goes into all the details about creating the mating nukes and mating the queens, taking them to mating yards, how to find good mating yards with feral bees, that kind of thing. So if that's something that's interesting to you, I highly recommend that queen rearing course. And of course, it specializes on the feral bee project. But if you have a line of bees in your own apiaries that you just really like the queen and want to raise daughters from her, it would be a valuable course for you then as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
It does. You
that's
guys
great.
are amazing. I mean, just looking at all the things that you guys are doing, I love you've got the bee photography going on. I know there's this beautiful picture of the bee kind of almost got like little, I don't know what it is, like a little white fur around it on kind of like a little green plant there. I mean, you just have a lot going on that is very, very cool. So bees are your life at day in and day out.
Yep. All the time. Our kids keep hives. Stan's, we were talking about this before the show started, but he's a 4th generation beekeeper. So our kids are 5th generation. So it's been in the family a long time. And so it's kind of a really cool opportunity for us to keep that tradition going within our family and teach that to other customers. We've helped thousands of beekeepers get started over a lot of years. He started in 1992 is when he started the honey company, but his family, it goes back to 1890 when
Wow.
his grandmother traded a colony of bees for a braided rug that she made, and then her husband and their family created an apiary with thousands of colonies, and grandpa inherited that. And then Stan's dad was more of a hobbyist beekeeper, but he kept some bees too. And then Stan is continuing that again. So
yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
if I could add, so by the time I was able to run a business of my own or pay attention, my grandfather was gone. So all of that years and years of beekeeping, he did write a bee book with some instruction, but I basically had to start over. So part of our beekeeping courses and our lessons and the videos we're doing is to give anybody who wants them, but I have a thought in mind that it's probably going to be my grandchildren that are going to want to continue the beekeeping. And if I'm not around to help them with it, I'll leave some resources and information and experience and wisdom for them to go off of. And if somebody else can benefit from that too, all the better. So we're writing a bee book, and we're my mom, bless her soul, she just after me for years and years. You got to write a bee book, and so finally we're getting around to it.
yeah.
That's cool.
Wow, so you got a bee book going too. So you got all these things going on, and now you got a book going. That's really an amazing thing. One of the things that you mentioned was that your hives for winter are weighing about 100 pounds, and when they're weighing 100 pounds, when they're that heavy, does that mean you're not able to produce as much honey as somebody maybe in a warmer climate, or how does that kind of play in?
Probably. I mean, the amount of honey production is related to, of course, how much water we get. We're on the drier end of things. So if we're in a drought situation, we're going to produce less honey. And then we on purpose decided to leave honey for the bees as a winter forage. We could take all the honey and then feed back sugar syrup to get them up to weight, but we just think it's probably healthier for their nutrition to feed them honey. and have them overwinter on that rather than sugar, right? Honey is their natural food storage. That's what they collected on purpose to get through the winter. So the bees in our area are adapted to needing to store more for the winter. And it does mean that we don't take as much honey as in a warmer state, for sure.
How much honey do you think you get out of a hive? How much do you take out of a hive?
It depends on the year, and of course there's a ton of variation, but we would say about 50 pounds per colony on an average.
Oh, wow. So you're still pulling 50 pounds out. You're still pulling 50 pounds out of a colony. So you're still getting a good amount of honey.
Mm-hmm.
It's still quite a bit of honey. Well, that's awesome. Do you guys do any pollination, or is it just honey sales?
We do pollination. So last year, the only pollination we did was local. There's quite a few fruit growers in the south end of Utah County still, even though the agriculture land there's getting gobbled up by subdivisions awfully fast. But we were in tart cherries this last year. We didn't go to almonds. Sometimes we'll go take them out to California for almond pollination, but that's not an every year. That's sometimes we do that.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd like to do that every year because that's a pretty good paycheck. But depending on how many colonies we have, I like to sell a lot of nukes. With the name of a company, the honey company, you'd think we'd have lots of honey. We'd specialize in honey, but quite often we run out. So I got a call earlier. Somebody wanted a gallon of honey, and I had to turn them down. We sell out. So anyway,
wow.
Yeah. So we do get involved in some pollination, and the honey is so variable. So we found that we need to branch out into other areas of the beekeeping industry rather than just rely on honey cells.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Could you? I'm curious. Honey's a big one, pollination, but like, what are these other aspects of your business? You're talking about branching out. Can you tell us a little bit about that process? And what that's like, what you're doing?
Sure.
So, do you want me?
No.
Okay. Sorry. We sell online courses, books, and I make a ton of stuff. Like I sell beekeeping veils and sell those, which are like pretty lady beekeeping veils mostly. There's a few for gentlemen as well, but and just other things that we can make. But our online courses is a pretty good breadwinner for us, if that makes sense. So we moved into the educational realm and trying to help people get started with their bees too. And that is a great, diversification of our business.
That's great. And I'm curious, who's the primary teacher on those online courses?
Well, I'm usually the face in front of the camera, and she's the editor and behind the camera. So anyway, that's about how it goes.
Yeah, I do a lot of the writing, and he does a lot of the in the beehive like videos. And so we have a YouTube channel if you want to find all of the videos. We videoed all of a lot of Stan's trip to southern Utah to find feral bees. Like we videoed the cutout in Monument Valley and the Travelese trailer. We cut the bees out of a trailer. And anyway, our YouTube channel is The Honey Company, at The Honey Company. So you can find all of those there, and see more Stan. And you'll hear my voice, but I'm not really on camera.
Well, that's cool. So it truly is a family. It truly is a family endeavor, and your kids love it too, huh?
I don't know if they love it or not, but they
tolerate it.
Yeah. So
they're teenage girls. I mean, but they're pretty careful about it, and they come and they make stuff and sell it at our booths, and so they're involved in like the farmers markets, and we make like honey lemonade and sell it there, or whatever the thing is that we're selling, and they love to be part of that. But they don't always like to get stung. So
yeah,
getting stung is not a fun part. I have 3 kids myself, and having them in their little bee suits, because mine aren't teenagers yet, thank God. And but I love them to be involved with the bees too. Because it's a great thing. Part of the reason why I got involved in bees was because, I wanted something cool for my kids to do, something that they could earn a living at, but something that wasn't so, corporate in the world, so we live out on a farm, and we live out in more rural part of Washington, out in the country. And so, we're not in the city. And so, doing something that's good, doing something that's with nature, doing something that requires hard work, I think is a good thing for kids in this day and age. And so that was some love that I have for the bees and for my kids. Like, maybe they'll choose to do something else with their life. And if they do, that's okay. But, they have an option to, you know, play with bees. And, like, that's a fun thing. And hopefully you can earn a living doing that. So, I love to see families involved and families, getting in and working together. And I don't know. I think it's a cool thing.
Yeah. I was just watching the other day, we have a video of the girls extracting honey when they were really little. Anyway, just the nostalgia of young kids and bees. It's pretty fun.
Yeah,
That's
that's
cool.
cool. Is the video on your YouTube channel?
Yeah, it is. I can grab a link from it after, put it in the show notes or something if you want to, but
That'd be
I'll
great.
check it out. I'll show it to my daughter, Madeline. My daughter, Madeline, is 8 years old. And, she's just having so much fun playing. And, I don't know, it's just a lot of fun. She gets in her little bee suit, and, we have a lot of fun with that. So name the honey company. That's a pretty good win in the day of, you own the honeycompany.com.
yep.
In an age where it is hard to get a .com,
Yep.
how did you get that? How did that happen? That was just, you just went on to GoDaddy or something and it was available and bam, you got it? Or
Well, it happened in the 90s. So
okay.
we've been doing this a long time. So
Yeah.
we have that website and many iterations of it over the decades, really.
Wow.
So-
Yeah, that's pretty exciting.
We couldn't decide on the name for the honey company. So finally what are we going to call our honey company? Well, the honey company.
Yeah.
That's how
That's awesome.
It's awesome though, because everybody knows what you do. I mean, and it's easy to search.
Yeah. Google likes that name a lot for sure.
Yeah, they do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I started another business 10 or 12 years ago, and I had to get the domain, and I started with the .org, and then finally I paid highway robbery of like $7,000 to get the actual
Mm-hmm.
.com off of somebody, so I understand how, so that's kind of a cool thing. So what do you guys see for the Feral Bee Project in the future? What's the future of that?
it's going to continue for sure. I would like to not only be able to trap some wild bees down there, put out some bait hives and catch some more purebred feral queens, but I'd also like to be able to leave those bees down there. So I've noticed a problem. As soon as we catch those wild bees that have been living and healthy on their own, without any assistance from any beekeepers or any, maybe assistance, not the right word, we bring them back to town and we put them in a hive and they die. And so the better idea would be to do as Tom Seeley does. He has his simulated wild hives. So he'll put them in a hive, but he'll leave them out on the location that they're from. So I can do that. There's enough private property down there for me to just leave some bees down there, and I could draw upon those. The only trouble down there might be keeping the bears out, that kind of thing. I'm currently working on an idea for a concrete beehive that I can lock the lid down so the bears can't open it up and take away the project. So that's part of the future. I'd like to do that. And so it'll make it a little bit easier, less trouble to have access to those genetics down there. So I want to continue this. Some more testing, I guess. We used to do the freeze brood with the liquid nitrogen thing to test for hygienic behavior. So mostly we've been just relying on survivor stock for our next generation. And so maybe we'll do a little more testing about mite resistant and some of the other bee diseases, and then be a little bit more careful about which ones we select for the next generation. But it's going to continue, yes.
That's
Wow,
cool.
that's awesome. How are you treating for varroa mite now?
So now oxalic acid would be my preferred way to treat, and there's 3 different ways to treat for varroa mites. With that, you can mix it with sugar and dribble it on. You can put it in the little frying pan hooked up to the battery and vaporize them. And you can also soak it in a shop towel with glycerin. So glycerin and oxalic acid's a good way to do it. So those methods work. Oxalic acid works. That's what we would do if, and honestly, maybe I'm a little bit careless about treating for mites, but I didn't put a mite treatment in many of our colonies this fall on purpose. And so far they're doing well. They're going into fall, late in fall, and still looking really healthy. And so I thought I'm just going to let some of them go without any mite treatment and see what happens. So we know how that ends. We've read that book before many times, and not just us, but many other beekeepers. So, but how do you know? You won't know if you've got mite resistance unless you've got mites. So we're just going to let some of them go. So. While I'm on that subject, let me take just a second and encourage any other commercial beekeepers that might be listening to this. So if you have the resources, you might want to take some of your bees and do some experiments with that. So rather than rely on somebody else doing the work for you, make a contribution to the bee effort. If you think you've got some genetic diversity in there that's worth pursuing, you got to be willing to put a certain percentage of your work and your labor into the effort of saving the bees, rather than just buying genetics from somebody else. There's much that other people can do on their own. Now, and I'm not saying anything new. Remember the Minnesota Hygienic? This is what Marla Spivak was telling everybody. You don't have to.
20 years ago?
Yeah, 20 something years ago, Those genetics are in those bees to survive on their own. We just have to pay attention. We have to select for them. Anybody can do a project like we're doing if you're willing to do so.
That's good. It's good advice. What kind of advice would you give to a new beekeeper or someone contemplating getting into beekeeping, whether it's a backyard beekeeper or someone who's like, I got 2 hives and I want to split and maybe grow to 10 in the next couple of years, or, maybe a smaller operation? What kind of advice would you give them in any capacity?
I guess I would say go for it. Like, try it, jump in with both feet, learn by doing, go for it. Try keeping a couple hives. And the experience of doing that is really valuable. You can sign up for our course, which we recommend, but there are other courses out there. Get a book and get a course, learn as much as you can and go for it. Like, just jump in. I don't know, I'm repeating myself, but that experience and be prepared to have some successes and some failures, and there's a steep learning curve, and it's okay. Just own that there is a steep learning curve and be okay with both your successes and your failures. Maybe some of those first colonies may not make it because of decisions that you don't know how to make yet, but go for it. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. Go for it.
You need to be prepared for disappointments. So if let me say that a little bit more clear. You need to be hardened by disappointment. Yeah. So your bees are going to die on you. So just
sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. So eventually you'll encounter all the bee diseases there are out there to get. So, you need to be going realistic about it, but don't let that stop you. So some people will start reading about bee diseases, and this varroa mite's been scaring us to death and causing all kinds of trouble for so many years that they are a little bit, it takes the fun out of beekeeping when you're just reading the section in the bee books about bee diseases. So don't worry about that stuff. I mean, eventually, you're going to encounter it, but don't let it stop you. So, and you need to be prepared for reversal. If you're going into a commercial business and thinking of bees, my grandpa mentioned in his bee book, some years we experienced reversals. So it's not that we just didn't make any profit that year. We actually had to use the profit from the previous year to keep going 2 years later. So that kind of thing can happen. And that's pretty scary when you're thinking about making a living at it and providing for a family in anything in the agriculture business, really, but especially bees. So luckily, we can recover from problems like that in the bee industry maybe a little bit quicker than, say, a cattle rancher could from a devastating loss. So we had wildfires that went through here a few years ago and wiped out some people's cattle that were out on the range. And just, they're done. They're out of business when that kind of thing happens. Beekeepers have a little bit more of a buffer. They're a little bit more resilient when they lose quite a bit. But anyway, that's some of my advice from years of beekeeping is that you need to be prepared for disappointments, but don't let it stop you.
Yeah. And the generations, like we go back and read Grandpa's beekeeping book or his journals or other things that he kept. And we see that, like, we think that we have the only time that people ever had bee problems, right? We think that it's just new to our generation. But like, if you look back, that's not true. Like, always had bee problems. And like Dr. Spivak said once, I think it was in her TED Talk. Anyway, I once heard her speak and she talked about how, bees, since they reproduce so quickly, their generations are shorter, you can replenish hives much more quickly. But anyway, like right after World War II, they had a big scare with bees and some chemicals that they were using. And it's if you look back through history, it's the thing. It's how bees are. It's the nature of agriculture, and we're not immune from that. But we move forward with courage and hope and into a new year's, right?
I love that. You move forward with courage, and it doesn't matter what business you're in, whether it's beekeeping or cattle raising or landscaping or you own a fruit smoothie stand. Business is tough. You got to have an iron gut, because you're going to have losses and you're going to have disappointments and you're going to have failures, but you're also going to have wins, and you're going to enjoy what you do and be bold and very courageous. Go for it. Just get in there and get in there and do it. We're bringing this thing in here for a landing, and I want to just say it's been an amazing show with you guys. For our audience out there listening, check out thehoneycompany.com. They've got an amazing handmade beekeeping veil that is awesome. They've got tons of products on here. I love the observation hive display cases. They've got nukes for sale. They've got all sorts of things going on here outside of just selling the standard honey. And they take some and they teach some classes, and some classes look pretty amazing. And it's just an amazing, just amazing what you guys do. So impressed with what you've put together, and so impressed with your business. So if you're out there in the audience, take a look, spend some money with the Honey Company, and help them save the bees and everything that they are doing. Just an awesome, awesome business you guys have. So honored to have you on the show. Thank you so much. Any final thoughts as we bring it in for a close?
Just thanks for having us. We appreciate, getting to chat about bees. Something we'd love to do.
Yeah, thanks, Dave and Scott, both of you. Good to be with you today. And I will say that we had just recently attended the North American Honeybee Expo in Louisville, Kentucky. Big event, massive event, biggest beekeeping event I think that's ever been assembled. You ought to check that out if you're inclined to go to those kind of things. They'll be doing it again. Lots of fun.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's a great tip. I'm gonna check that. I'm gonna check that out. I'm gonna check that out for sure. And I just want to say thank you for your time. It's been awesome. Thank you very much, Scott. Any final thoughts as we bring in for a close?
No, this has been great. Thank you guys for joining us. We love having you on, and encourage all the audience, check out their YouTube, check out their website, and stay tuned for more awesome episodes like this.
Awesome. I'm Dave Westcott, your host. This is Teach Me Bees, and we have a podcast every Thursday. We are back. If you like this, give us a like, give it a share. Follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, anywhere we're in social, we're hanging out. Thank you so much, and have a great day. Stay the bees.